In the summer of 1518, a woman stepped into the street and began to dance. There was no music, no celebration, no wedding, no festival. Just one woman, moving in the middle of a narrow street, as if something invisible had taken hold of her body. At first, people watched. Some laughed, some stared, some thought she would stop, but she did not stop. Hour after hour, she danced. Her feet struck the stones. Her dress moved with the rhythm. Her face showed exhaustion, but her body kept going. By the next day, she was still dancing. Then another person joined, then another, then more, within days. The streets of Strasbourg were no longer filled with ordinary life. They were filled with people who could not stop moving. They danced until their legs trembled. They danced until their clothes were soaked with sweat. They danced until their feet bled. Some collapsed, some rose again, and some, according to later accounts, never rose at all. This was not a legend from the ancient world. This was not a ghost story invented centuries later. This happened in 1518, in the city of Strasbourg, in what is now France. And more than 500 years later, historians are still asking the same question. Why did an entire city begin to dance against its will? Tonight, we enter one of the strangest events in recorded history. The dancing plague of 1518, a city gripped by fear, a street filled with bodies in motion, and a mystery where the most frightening sound may not have been screaming, but music. The story begins in July. Strasbourg was a busy city. Its streets were narrow. Its houses were close together. Merchants worked. Children ran through alleys. Church bells marked the passing hours. But beneath the surface, the city was under pressure. The early 16th century was not a gentle time. People lived close to hunger. Bad harvests could mean empty stomachs. Disease could move quickly through crowded neighborhoods. Religious fear shaped everyday life. And for ordinary people, the world could feel fragile, as if disaster was always waiting just beyond the next season. Then, one day, a woman remembered in later accounts as Frau Trophia walked into the street and began to dance. No one knew why. She did not appear to be celebrating. She did not appear to be performing. She seemed unable to stop. For hours, she moved. Then, for days. Her husband was said to have begged her to stop, but she kept dancing. When her strength failed, she collapsed. But after resting, she began again. Imagine seeing that outside your own door, a neighbor you know, dancing without music, not smiling, not laughing, not in control, her shoes scraping against the stones, her body moving long after her face says it cannot continue. At first, it might look absurd, then strange, then disturbing, then terrifying, because after a few days, she was no longer alone. Others began to dance with her, not for joy, not for entertainment, but with the same strange compulsion. Soon, the number grew. What began as one woman became a group. What began as a group became a crowd. And the city authorities realized they were facing something they did not understand. The dancers did not move like people at a festival. They moved like people trapped. Some twisted, some hopped, some spun, some shook, some cried out, some looked empty, as if the person inside had stepped away, and only the body remained. They danced in public spaces. They danced in streets. They danced in places where ordinary citizens were trying to work and live. And the longer it continued, the more frightening it became. People began to collapse from exhaustion. Some could barely stand. Others continued until their bodies gave out. Later reports claim that some died from the strain. The exact death toll is still debated. But what is not debated is that Strasbourg was afraid. The city had seen illness before. It had seen hunger. It had seen poverty. It had seen death. But this was different. This looked like madness made visible. And in 1518, when people did not understand an illness, they often looked for meaning. Was it a disease? Was it punishment? Was it a curse? Was it something in the blood? Was it something in the soul? The city turned to doctors. But medicine in the 16th century was still shaped by old beliefs about the body. Physicians did not have modern neurology. They did not have modern psychology. They did not understand mass psychogenic illness. Instead, they spoke of balance, heat, humors, and blood. Some physicians believed the dancers were suffering from overheated blood, a natural condition. They thought that could only be cured by letting the heat burn itself out. To modern ears, the solution sounds impossible. But to the authorities of Strasbourg, it may have seemed reasonable. If the dancers needed to dance the sickness away, then perhaps they should be given space to dance. So instead of stopping the movement, the city helped organize it. Halls were opened. Musicians were hired. People were encouraged to keep moving. The cure was more dancing. And that decision may have made everything worse. Because now the streets had rhythm. Now the dancers had music. Now the compulsion had a stage. Picture the scene. A city square under the summer sun. Musicians playing because officials told them to play. Drums, pipes, strings. The sound echoing between wooden houses and stone walls. And in the middle of it, exhausted people moving as if they had no choice. One dancer stumbles, another shakes, another cries, another keeps turning, long after the body should have stopped. The people watching must have felt two emotions at once: fear and fascination, because panic spreads, but so does belief. When one person falls into terror, others can feel it. When a crowd believes a curse is real, the body may begin to obey the fear. The dancing plague did not happen in a vacuum. Strasbourg was already suffering. There had been hunger. There had been disease. There had been social tension. People were exhausted before the first dancer ever stepped into the street. That matters, because human beings are not separate from the world around them. Stress lives in the body. Fear lives in the body. Belief lives in the body. And sometimes, when a community is pushed far enough, the body speaks in ways no one expects. One theory says the dancers may have suffered from poisoning. Some have suggested ergot, a fungus that can grow on rye and can cause hallucinations and convulsions. It is an interesting theory. And at first, it sounds possible. A bad harvest, contaminated grain, strange movements, a city in panic. But there are problems. Ergot poisoning does not easily explain people dancing for days in organized, contagious waves. It does not fully explain why the outbreak spread socially, from one person to another, in a way that seemed tied to belief and fear. It may explain convulsions, but it does not fully explain the dance. Another theory looks not at food, but at the mind. Modern historians often point to mass psychogenic illness. This does not mean the dancers were pretending. It does not mean the suffering was fake. It means real physical symptoms can spread through a group, especially under extreme stress, without a single physical poison or infection causing every case. The body can break under fear. A crowd can transmit terror. A belief can become a symptom. And in Strasbourg, belief was powerful. Many people in the region knew stories of Saint Vitus, a saint connected in popular belief with dancing afflictions. Some feared that a curse could make a person dance uncontrollably. So when people saw Frau Trafia moving in the street, they were not seeing a random medical episode. They may have been seeing the shape of something they already feared. a curse, a punishment, a sign. And once a fear has a shape, it can spread. That may be the key to the mystery. The dancers were not simply dancing. They were trapped inside a world where dancing itself had meaning. To them, the movement may have felt like proof that something terrible had taken hold. The more they feared it, the stronger it became. The stronger it became, the more others feared it. A circle, a rhythm, a city caught inside its own terror. Eventually, the authorities changed their approach. The music stopped. The dancers were taken away from public spaces. Some were brought to religious places, where prayers, rituals, and sacred symbols offered a different kind of treatment. Not because the doctors suddenly understood what had happened, but because the first cure had failed. By September, the outbreak faded. The dancers stopped. The streets of Strasbourg slowly returned to ordinary life. Merchants opened their shops. Families returned to their routines. The sound of music disappeared from the crisis. But the memory remained, because no one had truly solved it. The people of Strasbourg had watched their neighbors dance as if possessed by an invisible force. They had watched the city respond with music. They had watched exhaustion turn into horror. And then, almost as strangely as it began, the plague ended. So what really happened in 1518? Was it poisoned grain? Was it religious fear? Was it stress? Was it mass psychogenic illness? Was it a combination of all these things? Growing inside a city already close to breaking? The honest answer is, we do not know for certain. But maybe the most frightening explanation is not supernatural. Maybe no curse was needed. Maybe the dancing plague shows us something darker about human beings. That under enough pressure, the mind can turn fear into movement. That a body can become the voice of a community's suffering. That panic can spread without a pathogen. And that sometimes, history's strangest mysteries are not caused by monsters, but by ordinary people, living through unbearable stress, with no language for what is happening to them. The dancing plague of 1518 is remembered because it sounds impossible. People dancing until they collapsed. A city trying to cure dancing, with more dancing, a mystery that feels almost too strange to be real. But beneath the strange surface, there is a human story. A woman alone in the street. A crowd pulled into the same nightmare. Doctors reaching for the wrong answer. Officials trying to control what they did not understand. And a city discovering that fear, once it begins to move, can be very hard to stop. More than 500 years later, we can read the accounts. We can study the theories. We can compare the evidence, but we cannot stand in that street. We cannot hear the music. We cannot see the faces of the dancers. We cannot know what Frau Trophea felt when her body first began to move and would not obey her. All we have is the image history left behind. A summer day, a narrow street, a woman dancing without music, and a city slowly joining her. If this story stayed with you, follow History After Dark for more real stories from history's darkest corners.